Hey everyone, so I'm back with another Hack the Box video. This time we'll be doing cap. Now if you've noticed on my YouTube channel that the bounty hunter and previous videos are gone, they have actually been taken down because I apparently missed out the rules when it comes to uploading non-retired machines. So what I'm going to do is I will re-upload them once those two machines are actually retired so that you will now have again your references. So we'll be starting from scratch. And again, I assume that majority of my viewers are just starting to do pen testing or even doesn't have any background when it comes to IT. So first things first is you cannot simply connect to their machines, right? The reason why is it's using a private IP address. So we cannot have that connectivity via the internet. We need to be on their local area network. We can achieve this remotely by creating a VPN tunnel into that network, and thus as if we're in their network. It's extending their trust into our host machine. So cd or change directory to downloads. Then you will download this on the Hack the Box website, sudo openvpn, and the file name, the password. Then you will see this at the bottom. That means it is successful in establishing a VPN tunnel into the Hack the Box network. That's why Ctrl-Shift-T for a new tab. When you want to ping, now have the response. The latency, the time to live, and ICMP is basically the protocol being used for ping. You can also have the IP address on that local area network, just 10.10.14.52. So in the future, you might be using NCAT. You'll be using this IP, not this one, okay? So what I'm going to do is just perform basic port scanning using nmap. So nmap, default script, also return the version, then the target IP address, which is caps. So again, this will take some time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the well-known ports. So well-known ports. Now, network ports are actually subdivided into three main parts. That's the well-known ports from port 1 to 1024. If you have the registered ports, usually again registered ports are for services that are relatively new, such as I think RDP. Then you have the private ports, which is on the higher end. The private ports are being used by the client. So as of now, we'll just try to concentrate on the well-known ports. Again, you might see some of these later. You have the port 80 for HTTP, which is a web traffic, or automatically you can assume it's a web server. This is non-secure. HTTPS 443 is secure web traffic, which means it is encrypted. It's going to be encrypting using SSL, or for newer ones, TLS 1.2 or 1.3. Then you have FTP, which is the file transfer protocol, which allows clients to copy files from that file server. DNS, name resolution, which converts IP address into human readable format, URL, domain name server, or rather domain names. Then at the bottom, we'll see Telnet and SSH. They are like HTTP, HTTPS in a way that Telnet actually is a non-secure version or unsecure version of SSH. So SSH allows us to connect to a machine remotely, but it's encrypted like HTTPS. And then Telnet is the unencrypted version of it. So unencrypted means that if you're going to perform, say, a packet capture or a man-in-the-middle attack, you will actually see the contents of those traffic. As opposed to being encrypted, such as HTTPS and SSH, the attacker will actually see like a gibberish form of traffic. So again, that's one way to secure your network or secure your communications. Going back here, still trying to scan. So what we're going to do is just go to documents, then cap. Just going to create our notes using Nano. Now there are better text editors out there you could use. As of now, I don't have that much when it comes to recommendation. So currently we're just scanning for open ports using nmap. So with timing there, I'm just gonna copy this for a while to our notes. Again, going back into that well-known ports, we now see that it has 3 open ports. FTP, file transfer protocol, SSH, which allows us to connect to the 10.10.245 later remotely. Then you have HTTP, which means they have a web server. But again, it is unencrypted. So these are just additional information. So with a version, we could actually search for vulnerabilities or any exploits. So as of now, usually when I see a web server, I'll try to actually visit that first to see any good information or just to get a feel of the machine. So again, go to your browser since we know there's a web server, 245. Since it's an HTTP, you will automatically see this, the connection not secure, as opposed to Google, it's just connection secure, which means it is using HTTPS, which you can confirm this. But there are some certain cases that even if you're using HTTPS, you will actually see connection not secure still. There are a couple of reasons why. Some of which is the CA or certificate authority is not trusted, or the certificate, SSL certificate, is actually expired. So the first thing I actually notice here is there's a user logged in. So Nathan, we would actually update our notes. So on their website, there's a user who forgot to log out, I think. Her name calls Nathan. Now the thing about this is we don't have any form of password to this. So what I'm gonna do is just try to scan the website. Looks like the ifconfig. And then that's that. It's just basically the traffic going in and out of this website. So, okay. Since the website, what I usually do is try to enumerate the directories and its vulnerabilities. So Control-Shift-R to divide the terminal vertically, Control-Shift-D to divide it horizontally, Control-Shift-E to collapse it. So we're going to use gobuster when it comes to enumerating the directory. So if you just installed Kali Linux, I think you need to install it first, sudo apt-get install gobuster. Once it's done, we can use it. First is gobuster-h for help. We can see the available commands. We're going to be using dir, which means enumerate directory or files. We can also use dns, which enumerates subdomain. So the subdomain is the prepending word, for example, Facebook, right? Facebook.com. So subdomain is this one, mobile.facebook.com. So subdomain is the mobile, but we won't be using that. We'll be using the dir. So gobuster dir-h. So these are the subcommands for dir. We're going to be using extensions. So extensions will allow us to specify only the important extensions for that website, such as HTML, maybe PHP, CSS, JS, XML, JSON. Then we're going to use the URL, which means the IP address of our target, then the word list. So a word list is basically just a list of words. You could find it on your user, share, word list. These are like the tools. You're going to be using dirbuster's word list, specifically the medium.txt. So again, it's just a list of words. What the gobuster will do is take this random word, for example, and try to append it at the end of the IP address and add that extension. Again, it's not found. that means it doesn't exist. So what we want is to only output the important directories. So we're going to specify that, hey, if, for example, it's 404 not found, then don't output it. We can achieve this by gobuster. There, we can specify the specific extension. But first, I think I'm gonna check this one. This is the web server being used by the website. So it's a Python web server. -u, then the target's IP address, then -w for the location of the word list first, and then the word list itself, which is again directory -list, then no, okay. For the 2 greater than sign dev/null, we want to specify that all output errors would be forwarded to this location. The dev/null is like a trash bin. So again, what we try to achieve here is we're just telling gobuster to output only important information and put all of the error outputs, maybe a 404 not found, into this location. So 302, which means redirect, 200 is okay, 100 is informational, then 400 is client error, 500 is server error. On the right here, I want to enumerate the vulnerabilities of the website using nikto. So H host is again the target IP address. So we're going to allow this to run on the background. And that's for the HTTP. So basically for the HTTP, what I'm trying to do is just to do basic enumeration, just to get a feel of the website. What I'm going to try to check is the FTP. Now, there's a thing called the anonymous login for FTP. FTP anonymous. So what this basically means is we could actually connect to the FTP server without entering any credentials. So, yep, without an assigned user ID and password. Access, no password required to selected information. So what we can try to do is check if we're allowed to do anonymous login, FTP, target IP address. To do that, just say anonymous. Then just press enter. And we're not allowed. So login incorrect. That means we need to specify a password. Right now, we don't have any password for Nathan. So while we're waiting, we'll try to find something in this website that could actually help us. So there's no user setting, or actually, yeah, there's no user setting that allows us to maybe check for the current login user. So what we have here actually is the packet capture. So pcap means packet capture. Basically, it's like the logs for the traffic going in and out of this website, which apparently I think we could download and check for that one. So right now, what I'm trying to do is, since a user has been logged in, so most likely the way he logged in is it could be an HTTP post, such as on a Facebook. So HTTP post allows us to enter something on Facebook. That's actually what I'm using. Anyway, so for example, we're going to log in. It's going to do request post, and such as comments or basic user information. So we could actually try. Yep, it's not there, or it could actually mean that he logged in on the FTP server, which is not awesome. So these are all get. Let's try to check again and manipulate this one and see if from the looks of it, actually, we could actually try to manipulate the URL, and it looks like it's vulnerable to IDOR or insecure direct object references. What it means is, again, we can manipulate the URL and try to access pages or locations in the website that were technically not allowed or not permitted. In this case, I went to data/0, try to download this one and see if there's anything useful. So again, could be that he used the post in order to log in, or used the FTP, and from the looks of it, yeah, he did. And then there's a username, so he requested to log in, enter this username. The FTP server responded with, please specify the password, and luckily this is not encrypted, so we're able to just get the clear text version of the password and copy this. So copy as printable text, then login successful. So we know that this is FTP. We're able to log into this FTP. So let's just keep on going the background, which as of now is not really that useful. So we found the password on data/0 found the FTP password. Now, before I log into the FTP, I want to try this actually to SSH. The reason why is majority of the time actually users tend to use the same credentials when logging into multiple websites, multiple devices or machines. This is just like a human behavior. So we could actually try to check if he actually did the same. So Nathan. So this is how you access SSH. So SSH, the username at target IP. So you could try to look into social engineering, which includes, phishing, which includes also an exploit targeted to the human resources, human side of the organization. Let's try to. And we're able to log in, even though that this is the credential for the FTP. So let's run that here to log in to the machine using via SSH. Now, my reasoning behind this is, again, most of the times users do this because they don't want to forget their password. So as a good practice, we tend to use like a password randomizer and then try to change the password on a regular basis or put it in a vault. So ls, there we go. We have the first flag, then user flag. Now, at this stage, I think the gobuster scan is pretty useless together with the nikto. Now, for the FTP, we'll just keep that on hold since we already accessed the machine itself. So what we're going to try to do is do privilege escalation. So I often tend to use sudo-l. Hold on, I'm just gonna copy the password again. Sudo-l allows us to list the sudo-l allows us to list any programs and applications or even commands that we could run on a root privilege. But unfortunately, user Nathan may not run sudo on cap. So let's try getcap. Just gonna show you what getcap does. So getcap again is like sudo-l, which allows us to list the file capabilities. So we're just basically trying to look for a place to escalate our privileges. So cap recursive on the root directory. Again, the same with the gobuster. Put all error output into the dev/null so that it won't output everything that's not that useful. So these are the capabilities of certain commands or programs such as Python 3.8, such as ping, traceroute. And the good thing about this is we've seen that the Python 3.8 allows us actually to manipulate or configure the UID. Try to search this. So as of now, user Nathan ID would not be as a root. We can check this by running the ID. So you will see that user ID is 1001, group ID is, I'm not sure if GID is group ID, but I think yeah. So 1001 indicates that Nathan is not a root because the UID of the root is actually 0. So we can actually exploit this vulnerability by changing the ID from that one into the root, which is 0. So we can achieve this by running Python 3.8. Again, make arbitrary manipulation of process UIDs. So set UID to, but we're going to set it to 0 because we want it to be root. Again, Python 3.8 capabilities. Then GTFO bin actually. So search for Python 3.8 capabilities, GTFO bin, and you will see it here. So if the parent has cap set ID, which has there, cap underscore set UID, but we can manipulate the process ID. So what we're going to do is first we're going to change that UID from that Nathan's into 0, which is root, and then we're going to establish or spawn a shell. So first things first is we need to determine where the Python 3.8 is located in this machine by typing which Python 3.8 is on user bin. So we could change the directory there. You could also actually run it directly by specifying the absolute location of Python 3.8. So ls, so I'm just going to list first to make sure. So grep is like find Python 3.8 to make sure that we're in the correct directory, and it's there. So Python 3.8 C. First, we're going to import OS. Import OS means, import OS allows us to run OS commands, which includes this one, that set UID and system. Set UID again from to 0 since we want it to be root, which I will actually prove later. Then os.system, which we will actually specify to run the shell, which again you can find here, bin sh, and then we're root. That's why UID is 0 and the GID is still Nathan's, so we just change the UID to 0, because again 0 is root. Other than that, it's not root. You can think of it like that. So most likely for hack the box, the system flag actually is on the root folder. So just change directory to the root directory, then like the root directory, another root directory. Then specify the flag. So just to recap the privilege escalation, we tried to run sudo -l, but it didn't work. So we ran, we use getcap to determine file capabilities and found out Python 3.8 allows us to manipulate the process UAT. We exploited it by changing it to 0, which indicates root. We also appended a command that allows us to spawn a shell using Python 3.8, then the root flag, this one, and that's guys for cap. I will provide a recap other things we did. So first things first is we did nmap for basic port scanning. We found out that it has 3 open ports: FTP, SSH, and HTTP. So I decided to go with the HTTP first to check for, just basic scanning. And found actually that there's a user that forgot to log out, which is Nathan. So what we did is we tried to access FTP with FTP server anonymously, which did not work. So on the data/0, which is vulnerable to IDOR, we're able to find a pcap that actually has the packet capture between Nathan and FTP when he was trying to log in. So we got the password there. Once we got the password and username of Nathan for FTP, I tried first to use it on SSH because again, most of the time users tend to use the same credentials when accessing multiple devices, the websites, or servers. So we found the user flag after SSHing with the FTP credentials. Once we got there, we actually did privilege escalation by using getcap. First, check if there's any if there's any capabilities on that certain machines that allows us to do privilege escalation. So we found out that on the Python 3.8 allows us to manipulate the process UID, which we change into 0, which means root. Then we also specified to spawn a shell. Then we got the root flag, and then we're done. So that's it, guys, for cap. I hope you enjoy that. So again, I will try to repost the bounty hunter and previce once they retire. Then that's pretty much it. Thank you, guys. Hey guys, since you stick to the end of the video, I'm gonna be providing you a bonus. Now this is not necessarily connected to cap or hack the box in general. Today I will show you how to do scripting, or at least basic scripting. So what scripting does is allows us to automate some things such as health checks in network devices, and in this case, we're going to automate the 3 tools: nmap, gobuster, and nikto. So if you noticed earlier on cab, I tend to use nmap, then gobuster, then nikto. When I see it's a web server, right? So what I'm going to do here is, instead of doing that manually, is going to create a script and then run it. So this is the script we're going to be creating. We're going to enter the IP address of our target. We're going to specify the word list. That was the buster, right? Then we're going to specify the exact file. Then it's going to run three commands: nmap, gobuster, and nikto. So as a prerequisite, I would like you to actually, first update your apt-get. So sudo apt-get update. Once it's done, you need to download, using apt-get again, the GNOME terminal, this one. So those are just the two prerequisites when it comes to this scripting. Then the next thing is we're going to create our script now. So document scripts, I'm going to be using vi. It's going to create a new file rather. Let's say basic enum. So in vi, in order to edit the editor, you need to press I. Then you can type in. So these are just basic commands. So you could check on the internet what are the other commands for vi. But we're going to be using just the I escape to quit the edit level, then colon Q for quit, colon W for write or save, colon W and Q for write and then quit. One of the main reasons why I keep on using VI and Nano is most oftentimes Linux or Unix computers won't have any other text editors. So it's usually gonna be the VI. So I had some certain experience with Zscaler that I need to spin up a connector and it's only running in VI. So that's one of the main reasons why I wanna really get my mind into it. Again, now I'm gonna create a script. So first is import OS. Now if you've seen the cap video, we actually run this. So import OS. The reason why, so that we are allowed to use this command, the OS system, which allows us actually to input Linux commands such as this, share word list, which allows us to list all the word lists. So escape, gonna save, then quit. Then I'm going to try to run it. 3 basic enum. There we go. As you can see, it was just a basic Linux command. Okay. So what we're going to do first is actually, we'll try to ask our users. Python 3, so that we'll have a reference here. So we're going to ask our users the target's IP address. So in Python, a function or variable, input, then enter whatever the prompt is, enter target's IP address. Once they enter the IP address, the script will actually output the list of word lists so that they can choose. But the problem with this one is, again, certain word lists are actually in another directory or another level. So we need to go to that other level in order to get the list of word lists. So later, we need an if statement, okay? So that we could actually decide if it's already a text file, then we're just gonna run the script, or if it's another directory, then we need to go to that directory first before we could run the script. So first things first is this one. So we ask the user to enter the IP address, and then we output the list of word list. So this would be it, right? So they will choose. Now the next thing we're going to do is again create that if statement. So if, now if we notice that the word list actually is a text file or a list file. So if the user response contains a .text, before that, we need to ask the user to enter their word list, or it's a word list. Input, enter, word list. So that would be this one, select word list. Or just select word list. Once they enter the word list, let's say for example, rocku.text, it's already a word list in text format. So that has a .text in it in their input. Or another one is the .lst in their input. Then we'll just go directly in running the command. We're going to again add a variable, command, f. F allows us to provide like a placeholder for the input. So again, this is the reason why we need to add gnome terminal. Gnome terminal allows us to create new window, create new tab on the as a command terminal. So new window, new command. So we're going to add here the command that we're going to be using for Linux, which is the nmap, the gobuster, then the nikto. Okay, so those are the three commands. So command nmap, sc, sv, then as a placeholder, that's the reason why we add f, IP address, whatever they enter the IP address, it will just replace it here. Then new tab, command again, gobuster, x. You need to add this in order to have that quotation marks. HTML, CSS, JS, PHP, JSON, XML. Then I'm going to specify again the IP address, just this one. Then the word list. So share word list. And then whatever our user entered. Right? And that one, dev/null. So basically this is the command that we used or discussed earlier on cap. Then we're going to add another tab, another command, which is nikto, and the IP address. So basically what this if statement indicates that if the selected word list by the user already is in text file, we're going to run it directly. We don't have to go to another level of directory. But if our users selected, for example, their buzzer, which is a directory, not the word list itself, we need to specify another level of directory, right? So we're going to list the word list, folder, location. So we're going to specify the ls user share word list, then whatever your input the user did, So what this will achieve is, for example, our user selected third buster, right? Let's user share third buster. Now, once we have this, we're going to ask again for our, so just system lock. So that will become command. Then we're going to ask our word list file. Input select word list file. So right now we're here. So the buster, this one would be the os.system word log file, which is list the selected word list by the user. Then we again prompted the user to select a specific word list. So once they copy that, basically we're just gonna run the command again. So this would have a bit of a difference between the top of the column. So extension word list. Then I'm going to specify the folder, then the selected word list file of the user. No, and then we're gonna go new tab, command for nikto, htb. Then lastly is we're going to run that command. Okay, so this command would be this one. So if we're gonna do it like manually, that would be equivalent to this, so on and so forth. Here you got it. Then escape colon write and quit. Then we're going to run the Python basic numpy Python 3. Make sure you're in the directory where you place the Python file. Hold on. Actually, I'm just gonna looks about right. Okay, found it. So apparently hopefully that fixes everything. Going to run it again. So our target IP, I'm gonna select, for example, the buster. Then I'm going to copy this one. There we go. Now that would be on our else statement, but what if our user selected actually the rocky.txt already, right? So we don't have to output the list of word lists in that directory. So again, just gonna go back to the terminal. Just there we go. Just a quick recap is we need to import the OS first so that we can use this command os.system, and we first obviously prompted the user to enter the target's IP address, and then we show them the available word list on this directory. Then we again prompted them to select the word list. But if the word list is already in the text form or it's already a file, we're going to run the commands already, which is command and then run it. But if the word list is still in a directory, we need to go another level down, which we need to actually provide them again the list of available word lists in that directory. Then we're going to run that. Then going to prompt them to select a specific wordless file and then output the command. So that's it, guys, for this scripting. This is just a little bonus when it comes to cap, since it's a bit of a short video. I hope you enjoy this. Thank you.